Hey guys, what's going on? It is Nick from DesignsAcademy, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys what I think is probably one of the most useful Photoshop plugins you can get. It's not just Photoshop either. It's for any graphic design programs, so Photoshop, Illustrator, manga, all of those kind of like line editing softwares. You can use this program for. It works best in Photoshop, but you can use it for the other ones. And basically, this plugin that you can download, it is free for 30 days. Otherwise, it costs $35, and you get a year license. And then I think it's about $10 every year after that. But definitely well worth the price. I've downloaded the trial version for you guys here. And it does a lot of really cool things inside of Photoshop. If I just open up a new document here. To get this program, all you need to do is go on to your web browser and type in Lazy Nezumi. That's what the plugin's called. You can see LN down there on my programs. LazyNezumi.com, and this is the plugin. See here, try it for free for 30 days. And basically, this thing is going to do a host of different things inside of your editing programs. So, for example, the main use for people, especially if you have Photoshop before 2015, the line smoothing is not very good. So if we go down here to smoothing subtle, this will be the default thing that's on. Windows 10 is going to pop up this stupid little message every time you change and turn this on and off, so just ignore that. But what this is going to do is smooth out our lines. So if I make a new layer here, you can see that our lines are very, very smooth. I'm using a tablet right now. Honestly, this makes it so that you could use a pen or a mouse to draw lines, which is something that you definitely cannot do before, because if we turn the plugin off, just let me clear this layer. So we'll write, it doesn't work the best with the pen on this high of a smoothing, but so if I turn this down a little bit, if we write plugin has two G's, and then non-plugin, with the plugin you can see that my line, something like that. And if I turn it off, and we'll ignore that little beeping noise, since I'm using a tablet, my line's still going to be pretty smooth. But if I'm using my mouse, you can see kind of how rough this line is, and it's not very smooth at all. If I turn this plugin on, and I'll turn the smoothing a bit up, around 30s, good. We can see that, as I turn it more up, it's just smoothing out this line, which I'm using a mouse to draw, and it actually makes the mouse an option for drawing, rather than having to buy an expensive tablet, because even on the cheap end of things, tablets can cost around $100. I will leave a couple of links down below for some good tablets if you guys are interested in buying one, but this plugin basically it'll make your mouse a viable option to draw with in Photoshop. Now, as far as using a tablet goes, this plugin, if you have Photoshop CC 2015, which if you're paying for Photoshop is what you should have, this plugin really won't have much of an effect on your pen, because as we can see here, if we just do it in Photoshop, my brush is already pretty smooth, because Photoshop 2015 has added in some really nice smoothing compared to the older versions. But this is useful still. If I turn it on, we can see just how much it smooths out the line. So it is very useful, and that is just one of the many uses for this plugin. I'm going to be going through a few of the uses in this video, but there's so many that you could use this plugin for. It's honestly one of the most useful plugins I think I've ever seen for Photoshop. So that was the smoothing subtle. You can turn the amount up and down. So if I put it to 2, you can see that, and if I put it all the way up to something like 70, you can see that it's going to kind of lag behind my cursor, and that's just going to make these lines super smooth. And the more you turn it up, kind of the less curve you can get, but the smoother it makes these lines. So you can see that these lines that I'm drawing are super smooth, and that's just something that you can't really do without a plugin like this, because if I'm going to turn it all the way off, if I try and do that, you can see it's bumpy, and I'm even using a tablet and it still doesn't look very good. Now if I turn this on, it just instantly makes the lines super smooth and super nice looking. So definitely really good for doing line work. So if I was to, let's say I have, I don't know, like an eyeball here. If I'm trying to outline this eye, and I'm doing it without this tool, I'm going to end up with lines like that. And if I'm trying to follow this bottom line, you can see that I can only keep my hands so steady when drawing on a tablet that it's just not going to look good. But if I use this plugin and I turn the amount up a little bit here, that I can follow these lines and it just smooths it out quite a bit. So that's the first use for this plugin, subtle smoothing. The next one I'm going to be going over is another really useful one, especially if you're going to be doing 2D, and it's some of these constraints. So if I do a concentric ellipse, you can see here that if I move this circle around, it's going to pull up this guide. And I'm moving my cursor around and it's giving me this line. So if I click, it's going to instantly let me brush in along the radius of this kind of guide that is showing up. So basically it gives you unlimited freedom to draw consistently circular lines anywhere you want along one radius. And then if I wanted to maybe make some intersecting circles right here, I have that option, and it's just really awesome. Definitely can't express how useful this is to you guys. Just been using it in the last couple days because I just found it, and definitely a plugin I would recommend. Just super useful things. Little things that if I were to try and do something like this, even this simple, in Photoshop by itself, it would take me a very long time, especially to get things this consistent. Getting circles like that, it's just not going to happen in Photoshop unless you really take a whole lot of time to do it. And it's just, I don't know, this plugin makes everything a whole lot simpler. So if I lay down a couple circles here, let's say we want to make a record. So it's this easy to just lay down lines, and I don't know, I can't express to you guys enough how useful this is. Just for these very simple things, like if I were to do this normally, someone would just like make, I need a record for something, for some artwork that you're making, or maybe a banner style that you're making. It's just, you can't beat this level of speed and also accuracy with something like this. So it's that easy for me to just make a whole record with some lines to help in the shading, and it's that you can't beat that. So you can mess around with all these settings right here. If we change degrees, it's gonna make kind of an ellipse or an oval rather than a full circle. So an example of this would be if I was going to, let's say I'm going to make the circle tool and make a planet. I'm going to have the degrees reset to default. So say I've got my circle right here, make a new layer. Let's say that's my basic planet. And then I want to have some rings around it. I'll just change these degrees down to maybe something like that. Turn the rotation up a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a tilt. And just like that, I can make a whole ring around the planet. And it's just, little things like that that you just can't really, like, I don't know, in Photoshop things like this just take a long time, and when you can get a plugin like this that just makes it so easy to, you know, make something like this so simply and so easily, it's just something that, like, it's, I don't know, it's a plugin with endless uses and just something that is going to increase the time and also the overall just look of all of your work. It's, I don't know, it's really cool how fast you can do things like this, like make circles, and also more constraints that this has, parallel lines. So let's say I want some diagonal lines on either side of this. I can hold shift and I'm going to rotate this a little bit, and just like that I can make some diagonal lines, and I don't have to worry about them being on the same angle or any of that, because I just use this guide and I just drag along, and it's that easy to make lines on either side that just are perfectly parallel and are all on the same degree, and really awesome just to use this. It's a whole lot of fun to use this plugin. I would definitely recommend checking it out, because it's free for 30 days. Alright, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, these parallel line constraints are very useful. All these constraints, radial lines, fade in. This is, rather than using a vector brush, you can just use this, and if I'll leave that in the middle. If I want to make a radius around this, or a vector kind of line array, I can do this, and it's, I don't know, this plugin, honestly, I'm just scratching the surface of the things that you could do on it, because it has so many uses, that I've even yet to explore after using it for about a week, and its level of usefulness, I can't express that enough. I know I've said it about 1,000 times in this tutorial, but it's really just awesome how many different things you could use this plugin for. So that's the radial lines fade in. You've got things, just radial lines. So let's say I'm making an illustration and I've got a sun right here. Now I want to have some rays come off my sun, but I want to make sure that the rays are all equal. Then I can use this tool and constrain my lines to perfectly come out of the center of the sun, and I don't have to worry about lining them up or getting them on the right angle at all. I can just go around with the guide and draw my lines, and it makes it almost stupidly simple to do things that just in normal Photoshop would take you forever. So that's the radial line constraint. You've got a couple of kind of weird brushes here. These ones you'd have to mess around with. This one makes your pen kind of fuzzy looking. This one's kind of cool. The noise, it just makes your line scraggly. So let's say you wanted to, I don't know, if you're gonna do kind of a stylized portrait of someone, you could use just these crazy lines, or if you wanted to make all of the lines in a piece just be like crazy, if I wanted to have all these just be like, you could use it for electricity. I mean, really, like, these couple of miscellaneous ones really have a lot of weird uses that you could use them for in drawing. Like this one draws in steps, so like, I don't know, some of these I can't even think of a use for. I just know that, like, I don't know, you can apply these to lots of different scenarios in Photoshop and they become very useful. Got some more smoothings here. This one's pulled string, so it kind of, it gives you a guide to pull a line by, which is interesting. Definitely cool for like doing line work if you wanted to outline a different shape, because you can kind of trace it a little bit before and get these really long sweeping curves, and it would definitely be useful for doing a lot of like long outline work. The last tool I'm going to be showing you in this plugin is one of the coolest ones, I think, personally, just because I like to make this kind of art, and it is a isometric constraint. So when I select that, that annoying noise comes up again, but also you're going to see this crazy looking guide on my screen, and if any of you are familiar with isometric art, it's going to lock my art to different axes, just isometric view axes. So I got this one, vertical, and then my other horizontal one, and it's going to lock any brush stroke I make to those three axes, I'm not sure, and keeps them incredibly consistent. So in a program like Photoshop, to be able to make, if I want to make a cube, for example, if I do this, to be able to just immediately lock onto these different axes and, just instantly be able to line things up and draw out my lines to the perfect angle is like a crazy useful tool, especially if you want to get into some stylized drawings like this. This makes, drawing something like this incredibly simple. That one's a little uneven, but you get the point. So if I could, I could draw, if I wanted to, let's say I want to draw a city street. So I get here, and that'll be my corner. Oh. This one's a little hard to get it to pick up the different angles, because basically for this one, I couldn't figure it out at first, but this snap mode down here, this one basically just locks it to this. Oh, it's not working right now. Snap mode 1. 1. Alright, there we go. So snap mode 1, this will be the default one. It's just locked to this red axis, and I couldn't figure out how to change it. I thought you maybe pressed a button to change the different axes, but if you just change it to snap mode 2, then you can get it to, if I pull down, for instance, it's going to go to the vertical axis. If I go up to the right or down to the right, it's a little hard to do sometimes, but down to the right, it's going to go on that green axis, and up to the left or down to the right, it's going to be the red axis. And so that's the best way. And basically, I can just go around, and I'm using a pen, but you could even use a mouse and draw on this, and it's going to make you like some crazy straight lines, and they're always going to be on the right axis, and it's just going to look awesome every time. So if I want to use this to maybe draw a city corner, it's also got these little dots, which are really helpful little guides for measuring. So if I wanted to make a skyscraper right here, I can make a perfectly symmetrical, basically elongated cube right here. And the way isometrics work is going to have these vanishing points. So if I leave my cursor right here, you guys can see that off to the edge of the screen, the lines just keep going, and those are going to vanishing points. And that basically keeps every line on going at the same angle is the best way to explain it if you don't know a lot about kind of linear perspectives and vanishing points. But this is really useful for if you're into isometric art and you don't want to do it on a 3D platform. This kind of opens up Photoshop to you as another platform that you could do something like this in, and it makes it really fun and easy to do it. So if I want to make, I can basically just make a whole street of buildings and other things just kind of coming off of each other, and I never have to worry about lining up anything or making sure my lines are at the right angle or any of that. And basically, I don't know, it gives you more of an opportunity just to focus on your subject and what you're actually drawing, rather than having to worry about the logistics of this, all of these lines being at the right angle, or is this door frame lined up with what I want it to be lined up with. All of that just gets rid of all that, and you get to actually have fun doing your drawings or anything else. This has a lot of application in a 2D setting also inside of Photoshop, if that's something that you use. Basically, this almost eliminates the need for some preset brushes, because if I want to make a circle, I've got that restrictive tool to make a circle, and it ends up being a lot easier just to use my brush with this lazy Nezumi tool, rather than getting my other preset brushes that I had previously. Yeah, that's just a couple of the uses for this plugin. You can see I started a little street, and it's a perfect isometric view. You're going to have to mess around with all of these constraints by yourself, kind of using them in whatever setting you want. They're so useful. Awesome plugin. Definitely recommend downloading it. It's free for 30 days. Also, I mean, if you like it, I think it's definitely 100% worth the $35. I will definitely be purchasing it after these 30 days because, I don't know, I personally, after using it for a few days, think it's really worth it. And if you're experienced in Photoshop or you are practicing frequently and you want to get into graphic design, this plugin's invaluable. Invaluable? You can't put a value on this plugin because it's just going to increase your speed and your workflow and your accuracy, and it's going to make everything look a lot cleaner and awesome, and people are going to be asking you, how you do these things. And you can say this awesome plugin for Photoshop. One last thing before I go. If you're using this for Photoshop, it's very easy to set up. All you do is go to the website, download, install it, and it's instantly going to put it as a plugin for your Photoshop. I have mine set to open right when Photoshop opens, and it just kind of makes its own little window here, and it's just kind of floating on top of your Photoshop. Basically acts as another program, but it's actually a plugin. You can hit this power on and off button to turn it on and off. I just leave it on because there's really no reason to turn it off for me. But if you're using another program, you're just going to have to hook window, which basically you click hook window and you click onto your canvas of a different program and you can use it. I'm assuming most of you guys are using it for Photoshop, so once you install it, it's going to be all set up for you. If you want any more instructions or kind of little things about some of these constraints, if you go onto the website and go to FAQ, the creators of the plugin have made a little question and answer section about the plugin and some things and how to use them. Here on the website we can see a couple of cool features. It's going to smooth out the tips of your lines like this. You got pressure curves, so if you're using a stylus like I am and you're doing drawings, you can set these pressures. This is one of the constraints where you saw me drawing that really awesome looking line. Right here, you can set the path for the line that you want it to draw. So this has a lot of actually really useful things. Rather than using a preset brush, which would be stuck in maybe this linear fashion, you could draw it in a circle. You could use it for all sorts of different things, so that's really awesome. These are the line constraints. You can see that's kind of an isometric view. The isometric view, you can change the angle, so you can see here this isn't a perfectly isometric view. He's just drawing a rectangle, but he's able to keep it locked at that certain perspective. Using the ellipse constraints up there. These are some tree examples and some other settings that you can mess around with. It's definitely a plugin that you just want to download and mess around with. Really awesome. Definitely would recommend it. I will leave the link in the description for this website. If you guys have any questions about the plugin that I didn't answer, I know I was rambling a lot in this tutorial about how awesome this plugin is because I really do believe in it, and I think it's a really awesome tool that you can download for Photoshop. But if you guys have any more questions about how to use it, shortcuts to use it, stuff like that, just put them down below. I'll make sure to answer them. That is about it for this week's video, guys. It's been Nick from Designs Academy. Peace.